What if the most famous, nervous breakdown in reality TV history wasn't a breakdown at all, but the birth of a carefully calculated industry revolution? To understand where Courtney Hadwin stands in 2026, we have to revisit the 2018 archives with a more cynical investigative lens. At the time, the world was captivated by the image of a 13-year-old girl who seemed physically pained by the mere act of standing in the spotlight. The narrative fed to us was simple: a shy schoolgirl who transformed only when the music started. However, looking back from our current vantage point, we can see that this branding was a double-edged sword. While it created an instant emotional connection with millions, it also built a commercial cage that Courtney would spend the next 8 years trying to dismantle. In the high-stakes world of music journalism, we've seen this pattern before, but rarely with such intensity. The industry thrives on these metamorphosis stories because they are easily marketable, but they rarely account for the actual human being behind the microphone. By 2020, Courtney was already beginning to signal that she was done playing the trembling prodigy. Our investigation reveals that behind the scenes, she was already pushing back against the retro soul costumes and the scripted interviews that kept her tethered to a version of herself that didn't exist outside of a studio set. This first chapter of her career wasn't a failure, but it was a false start choreographed by executives who were more interested in a Janis Joplin reincarnation than a modern artist's survival. The mask she wore back then wasn't a lie, but it was a heavy burden that nearly offed her passion for the industry entirely before she even hit adulthood. This 2026 rebirth is the direct result of that mask finally shattering under the weight of her own ambition. Behind the 3-year disappearance of the world's most promising rock star lay a high-stakes legal battle that threatened to bury her voice in a corporate graveyard forever. When Courtney Hadwin went dark in the early 2020s, the public was led to believe she was simply taking a hiatus, or as some darker tabloids suggested, that she had OD'd on the pressures of early fame and retreated into total isolation. Our 2026 reporting can now confirm that the truth was far more tactical. This wasn't a disappearance by choice, it was a strategic withdrawal necessitated by a massive conflict with industry gatekeepers. As rumors of legal fallout surfaced, it became clear that Courtney was fighting for the rights to her own creative direction. The major labels wanted a radio-friendly pop star who could deliver high-charting covers, while Courtney was obsessively writing jagged punk rock anthems that the big bosses deemed unmarketable. This led to a stalemate of silence where she was effectively sidelined, prohibited from releasing new material while her old contracts were litigated in the shadows. For an artist, this is the ultimate internal struggle, being told that your authentic voice has no commercial value. During this time, Courtney wasn't sitting idle. She was secretly collaborating with underground producers in Minneapolis, building a new sound that bypassed the traditional hit-making machine altogether. This period of being iced out by the industry actually served as her greatest strength, allowing her to mature away from the prying eyes of the paparazzi and the expectations of a Simon Cowell-led narrative. She used the silence to sharpen her blade, preparing for a comeback that wouldn't just be a return, but a total hostile takeover of her own brand. The 2026 Courtney we see now is the survivor of a system that tried to delete her for being too difficult to control. Forget the golden buzzer and the flower power dresses, because the 2026 incarnation of Courtney Hadwin is a rock monster that has officially declared war on the pop charts. The launch of her debut independent album, Miss Jagged, has done more than just top the charts. It has fundamentally shifted the power dynamic for former child stars. This record is a raw, unapologetic exposure of everything she was told to hide during her teenage years. In our deep dive analysis of the tracklist, specifically the lead single Spellbound, we see a lyricist who is no longer afraid to talk about the shadows of the business. The 2026 sound is a gritty, distorted wall of sound that blends 90s grunge with futuristic industrial elements, a far cry from the polished soul of her youth. Reports from inside her camp suggest that when she first played the demos for her former label heads, they were horrified, claiming the music was too dark and too unstable for her fanbase. Courtney's response was to walk away entirely and fund the project herself, a move that many called career-ending at the time. Instead, it became her liberation. The visual transformation accompanying the album is equally shocking. The 2026 Courtney is an avant-garde icon, sporting a dark, sharp aesthetic that mirrors the jagged nature of her new music. She has successfully exposed the reality that a performer can grow up and change their frequency without losing their soul. The album has been described as a revolt against the machine, and her new band, COURTZ, has become a symbol of independent success. She isn't just singing songs anymore, she's leading a movement for artists who have been exploited by the talent show industrial complex. This isn't just a new album, it's a manifesto of survival in an industry that usually breaks people like her before they ever reach their prime. In an era where child stars are often discarded by the age of 21, Courtney Hadwin's 2026 legacy is a masterclass in how to burn your past to save your future. As we conclude this special report, the impact of Courtney's transformation is visible across the entire entertainment landscape. She has become the sovereign of her own career, proving that the golden shackles of a major deal are no longer necessary for global stardom. There were accusations surfaced in the early 2020s that she was unstable or difficult to work with. But in 2026, those labels have been exposed as nothing more than industry code for a woman who refused to be a puppet. Her transparency regarding her mental weight and the internal struggles she faced during her silent years has resonated with a new generation of fans who value authenticity over artifice. She has navigated the landmines of fame without offing her integrity, a feat that is increasingly rare in the modern age. The 2026 Courtney Hadwin stands as a living testament to the power of saying no to the wrong people. While the gatekeepers predicted her downfall, she instead built an empire on her own terms, turning the jagged pieces of her past into a crown. Her story is no longer a "where are they now" tragedy, it is a look at her now triumph. As she prepares for her 2026 global tour, which is reportedly sold out in every major city, she carries the scars of her early career as badges of honor. The shy girl didn't just grow up, she exposed the industry's flaws and paved a new way for every misfit with a voice. Courtney Hadwin didn't just survive the transformation, she became the architect of a new reality where the artist, not the executive, holds the power. The world isn't just watching her perform anymore, they are watching a queen claim a throne that she built with her own two hands.